Okay, hi y'all. I'm trying to make these videos really quick and to the point. So I left off where how we met because that's the first thing everybody asks. And I came home in 2003. I started his visa paperwork, and then I found out that the marriage that happened in 2003 was not legally binding. It was not legally binding by Indian standards. It was not legally binding by American standards. There was some discrepancies, some problems with the marriage itself. I find out now, actually a few years ago when I started digging into this crazy problem that I'm going through, I find out that he was married to another woman in India. That's point of view, that marriage was not binding and there was something wrong with the paperwork. He was able to finagle and clear that up. After I was on Channel 8 News, I got an outcry of support to try to get him to America. Yeah, I tried to get him to America. I did everything I could. There is a video. They do have the video. This is before the digital age, so it is not online, but they do have the video that can be subpoenaed. They told me this because of the criminal stuff that's going on with me. I cannot get that video from Channel 8 News. Anyway, I did everything I was supposed to do. Tried to get him here. There should have been red flags then and there. A congressman told me that he was after me for citizenship. I did not believe the congressman at that time, but it was the truth. So me and the boys, I left my two daughters with my mother, and me and my two sons, Ashton and Mackie, we boarded a plane. Here's a picture of the plane ticket in '04 to India. This is a picture of them right after they got there. Okay, so we get to India, and he is okay. Life is all right. He becomes severely abusive and is never in the home, absolutely never in the home, not for any holidays, not for anything. I figured this is my fate. This is the man I married. I didn't want to look ashamed in front of my family, and I didn't want to look ashamed in front of the people who told me that it was not a good idea. So I continued on in this relationship, living through abuse. Things were happening. It wasn't always bad. I can't. People are asking me, can you remember a happy time with him? Honestly, truthfully, I cannot. I hate to say it. It sounds awful, and I keep racking my brain. Do I remember one happy occasion where everything was happy and we had a great time? I can't remember that right now. I keep trying to remember. Maybe one day I can. But in India, it was bad. I was miserable. I ended up getting pregnant and having a miscarriage, and then I got pregnant again, and I had Sai. Sainath was born in India, and then he beat me up really bad shortly after Sai was born. Sai was about 5 to 6 weeks old, and there was a fight over me not closing the door to the cupboard of the home temple. So there was a fight. I wouldn't even say a fight really, because I didn't fight him back, but he beat me up while Sai was in my arms. It was ugly, and I wanted to go home. And I told him I wanted to go home. And then he explained to me the fact that the reason why he was being so evil to me is because he didn't have any money and he was worried. We had a baby and he had no way to feed us or take care of us, and how much he was making there in India was not enough to take care of our family. So when I told him I wanted to go home, he told me that, and things in America be better, we should file paperwork and go to America. So we got married in a Hindu ceremony. I converted to Hinduism. This is a copy of my Hinduism conversion certificate. Here is a picture of my conversion. And then we got married under Hindu law, the proper way, in a Hindu marriage. Here's a copy of the Hindu marriage ceremony. Now, this was November 4th of 2006. In my divorce papers, because it was held in fraud, they have down that the marriage happened April 4th, 2006, because the way Indians write their dates. So here's the marriage certificate, and you guys can see the date on there, written with the way Indian people write the dates. So the Alabama court got it wrong. I'm going to touch base a little bit about the Alabama court. I was never allowed into that courtroom for the divorce. Now, when everything happened, back up. I was arrested for disorderly conduct. The video is up there about that. Ashton was beaten up brutal by the Millbrook police. The Millbrook Police Department was had threatened my life. Officer Youngblood said that he was going to kill me. Officer Youngblood also said some very nasty racial stuff. Was very racially nasty to me. He told me that my children would never go. His child would never go to school with people like you. Was his exact words, and it's because his son. So he told me his son goes to the private school, which a lot of the white children go to the private school to keep them away from black children and integrating. It's a very racist place, Millbrook, Alabama is, and it's just ugly. Google Judge Sibley Reynolds, and all kinds of not good stuff happens in this area, court-wise. So I was not allowed to come to court. What I got from him was this. Okay, so the story goes like this. I left because he threw Shivani across the room. Officer Knapp told me to get out of the state because it was just a matter of time before the right officer came, and I was going to go to jail for a very, very long time. There's nothing anybody can do about it. She told me that she didn't care if I had to crawl, but to get out of the state of Alabama and never come back. This is after my son was beaten up by the Alabama Police Department. This was after my life was threatened by the Alabama Police Department. I was in fear for my life from my husband at the time. And then Officer Knapp tells me to get out of the country and to not out of the country, oh my God, to get out of the state and to never ever come back because I was going to go to jail for a very, very long time and there was nothing anybody could do about it. Well, that exactly is what has been going on and what has been happening to me. Okay, when Shalish threw Shivani across the room and I called the police and they didn't do anything about it. They refused to do anything about it. I won't screech that. The worker from the domestic violence center called the mayor in order for the police department to even come out and give me a police report. There's videos of that. Officer Youngblood, they break into my house. I called the state troopers in order to get help because I was afraid of the Millbrook Police Department, and I am still afraid of the Millbrook Police Department. The Millbrook Police Department has helped Shalish to do this stuff. And the whole county, matter of fact, I'm just going to be honest with you. It feels like the whole county of Elmore County is helped my abusive, criminal ex-husband to do these things. And nobody's doing anything about it to stop it. Definite lies has been told, but I'm going to leave the lies that's been told for the next video. Okay, so I was in the shelter, and I was still talking to Shalish. Call it Stockholm Syndrome. That's what it was. I know now, Stockholm Syndrome. I should not have talked to the man. But I was in the shelter, and it was in Syracuse, New York. He had through Shivani. I had made the police report. Officer Knapp told me to leave. I didn't really know what to do. I was contacted Shalish. Shalish told me that he was going to give me temporary custody of the children and bring me a car. Get me a car so that I can go to work, so I can take care of the kids, and we were going to go to counseling and fix this. Well, instead of bringing me a car and giving me temporary custody of the kids and we going to counseling, when I agreed to meet with Shalish in Syracuse, New York, he drives up and he's in a black van, and out the window, it was pouring rain that day, out the window he hands me this. I'll give you guys better copies of this on my Facebook page. You can see and read this. Now this is, and the counselor at the place wrote divorce on the top. Alright? Nothing, I kept it as pristine as possible. Didn't remove the original clippings, because when I got back to the shelter, I got that, and I got this. This is the custody order. Okay? Mind you that I left on March 3rd, is when I left the state of Alabama. And then I was picked up in Syracuse by the sheriff and then drove in straight to the Syracuse shelter. I kept in contact with Shalish Tanner, thinking that I can work things out with him, wanting him to get help for his violent outbursts. He told me that that's what we were going to do. He was going to give me a car. We were going to work this out so I could take care of the kids. He drove up and gave me those 2 documents. Now, in these 2 documents, there was no summons. That's what I was handed. I'll show you guys everything, all of everything. There was no summons in these two documents. So Ashton came with me. The kids were being watched by one of the women at the shelter. And when I got back to the shelter, me and the woman, we conversed, and I said, she was like, you got to tell the worker lady. So I told the worker lady, and the worker lady went over the paperwork with me and told me that I could no longer stay in the shelter because I broke rules. I was in contact with my abuser. She went over the paperwork with me and realized there was no summons. So she, at that time, called the Elmore County court, and there was nothing on docket. Right there sitting with me. And then also the Child Protective Services was called, because before I left, I called Child Protective Services first. Before I left Alabama to get help when he threw Shivani, Child Protective Services refused to come out and do a report. Then I had left, and Child Protective Services contacted Syracuse. Syracuse said that she's in shelter now, and they felt no need to make a report at that time. I should have had them make a report anyway, but Syracuse felt that she's in shelter. She's left the situation. That stuff was happening in Alabama. But Child Protective Services in Alabama refused to come out and make a report when I called them to report the abuse that was happening in the home. So I left. Child Protective Services refused to make a report. The police refused to do anything. Officer Knapp told me to leave the state. I was going to go to jail for a long time for doing nothing. It was just bad. So I couldn't stay in the shelter anymore. So I went to my daughter's house and I stayed a week with my daughter. And I continued to work with the Domestic Violence Center. They found me another shelter who agreed to take me in only if I kept in touch with Elmore County and kept on top of the divorce issue. Now, this is a great domestic violence center. They kept on top of it. They were going to help me. I had witnesses to the abuse at this time. I had people that had lived with us that could tell about the abuse. I had witness statements. I had this kind of stuff. I had everything all ready to go. So when we went into court, I could prove that my case was valid. I could prove the abuse that happened. I had people that were willing to come to court. Still have people willing to come to court and testify. So we were ready. We were like rock and roll. We're ready for when this happens. I started counseling classes. The kids were doing okay. The kids were going to school. And we were waiting for this divorce. We called every single week on Thursday because that was my counseling day. And I had to call every week on Thursday to find out, because if not, I couldn't stay in the shelter there because I had a court case open. So we called every week to the courthouse, and we spoke to Miss Tammy, is her name, every single Thursday since I got the filing report. Every Thursday, faithfully, in order to stay in the shelter. So we called her every Thursday, Miss Tammy, got to know Miss Tammy, talked to Miss Tammy. They kept telling us, Miss Tammy told us every week there was nothing on docket. Sometimes it takes divorces a long time to go through. So nothing on docket for weeks and weeks and weeks go by. Still nothing on docket. Well, he shows up. No, I talked to him. I'm still talking to him on the phone. I don't know why. I wasn't supposed to, but I guess I wanted to work things out. I don't know. Stockholm Syndrome, okay? I'm just going to chalk it up to Stockholm Syndrome. I kept talking to Shalish. I told him that I wanted to not do this. Let's go to counseling. Let's wait on a divorce. I don't know what I was thinking. Let's go to counseling. Let's fix this. Let's do that. And he sent me money one time. And I'm talking to him. He never tells me that the divorce happened. I'm talking to him. He never tells me that the divorce is coming up. I'm trying to hash things out and, do a fair divorce if that's what's going to happen. But let's do counseling and get this straightened out before we do so, because we have children together. But he never told me that the divorce even happened. He never told me anything like that. I kept calling Miss Tammy. Miss Tammy told me there was nothing on docket, so we were like, okay, going on with life. We're gonna do this we're gonna deal with it. Me and my counselor, we're gonna deal with it when it comes up, and we're ready to deal with it. We had everything. I had everything all set. I had witnesses. I had this. I had that. In order. Well, lo and behold, he never tells me the divorce happens. Miss Tammy at the clerk's office never tells me that the divorce is on docket or that it happens, and we call her every Tuesday faithfully. I only stayed at my daughter's house for a week after being kicked out of the Syracuse shelter. And so we didn't miss anything, you know, or anything like that. I didn't miss any time because there was no summons in the filing report. He gave us the wrong paperwork. Sometime in June, he comes to the kids' school. This, for some odd reason, he finds where we are living at. I'm still talking to him, but still keeping our living situation under wraps. He finds out where we're living at. He comes to the kids' school and with the divorce papers in hand. And that is when I find out that he definitely has a divorce, and this was fraud of the system. I'm going to stop this here and continue in the next video.